Starting the stream as soon as we get a link.
So, Kegistani, if you wish to browse this website here, there are stories.
Trust me, I love that website. It used to be my website in every bio.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty, we are indeed live.
Why
Greetings and salivations. I'm Unfoff Neverborn, the abyss that slumbers, and you are listening to Eldritch Rants, the show that dares to ask the question, should I eat this bag of 3-month-old mozzarella shredded cheese I found in the back of the refrigerator? The answer to this question, and many more, will be answered by my panel of experts. Do you wish to introduce yourselves?
Absolutely. Hello. I am the GTA King official, or otherwise known as George, and I'm here to discuss topics.
No step on snack.
No step on this neck. Alrighty. Usually I like to stick with some of the more obscure topics, but this week, wow, we've got just such a full plate to eat from. And, well, most of it's not pleasant, but let's dive right into the big one, which would be the Manchester bombing.
Yes.
Currently, we're up to 22 dead, 59 wounded, and the sad part is that I've got that memorized. I believe there were only 2 male fatalities, despite the fact that when talking to every feminist who likes to get on NPR, it's all about the women's, spelled with a Z. And I just want to go on record as saying I hate NPR. They are a thoroughly disgusting show. After listening to their last episode about the feminisms, talking about Ariana Grande and how she's into empowerment, but not too much into empowerment, because after all, she might talk about positive body image, but it's positive body image that requires men to see them. The horrible, horrible male gaze. God, I just want to shoot myself in the head. But besides that, there is obviously people out there wishing to politicize this, and people who would prefer to actually ignore that it ever existed. Well, it still happened. So I believe actually George has more on the topic than I do. Did you want to go about anything, George?
Let's see. Yes. So there are possible connections to ISIS stated by this self-proclaimed ISIS member from this video here, stating that there is more to come, which is quite frightening.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. I mean, we expect more to come. But here's the part that bothers me. When you're talking to like government officials, there's this going like kind of a shrug, kind of like, oh, it's helpless now. We're attacking ISIS, so we should expect this sort of thing. Who could have predicted this? Except that this is incredibly predictable, isn't it? And if anything is predictable, can't you kind of prevent it because, you know, it's predictable? But
now,
I don't know.
Seeing the UK's current state with the flood of immigrants from the Middle East and the amount of the crime rate increasing due to this immigration, especially, you know, within the Muslim community in terms of ISIS terrorism attacks, it should, I'm sure that security has been pumped up for this event, but I don't think it's been pumped up enough. And surely after this, kind of like with the scenario that happened in the States with 9/11, it's going to be much more enforced with security.
See, the problem is I think we're focusing on the wrong thing here. When the explosion went off, it was outside the security venue. He was waiting for the flood of people to be leaving, and then he walked into the middle of them and blew himself up at the entrance.
I wasn't aware of that. I see.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually inside the building. I think, unfortunately, what we're dealing with here is, as people say, we just need to hug these people more and everything will be better. Well, no amount of acceptance is going to change the mind of somebody who believes God has told them to kill you. And we just won't accept this fundamental fact here. By the way, I don't have a problem with Muslims. I have a problem with Islamists. Okay, let's make
Especially
that.
the extremists.
Oh yeah, especially the extremists. I work with these guys, and most of them like just don't care. They're like, whatever. No, that's not important to us. There's secular people out there who follow Islam. That isn't the issue. The issue is that you're dealing with such an incredible flood of people. It wouldn't matter what they were. You know, it could be a flood of Polacks. It could be a flood of Russians. It could be a flood of people from the Amazon basin. There's too many people all at once. Humanity naturally likes to stick with people who understand them, so they kind of segregate, and then you get clusters of communities where these people don't have any integration with the rest of society. Of course they're going to grow to hate you. All right? If you look at the history here in central New York with the Polish communities, there was a huge flood of Polish people all at once thanks to Russia, thanks to the USSR. I should make a distinction. And when they got here, there was a lot of friction because the Polish people got here. They all looked out for each other. And you're talking to somebody who, when he was 8 years old, was taken off to one side because he was a young man at 8. And we were told the story of what the commies were doing. And I got to see a man talk to me about his experience at 8 years old of having his fingernails ripped off. And I got to see his hand. That is the degree of isolation that these groups were. They literally, at 8 years old, start beating crap into you. Now, admittedly, we're talking about Poland, where they wear really gay outfits and they like to dance the polka. Okay, we love our accordions. Okay, so it's not like we were going to be that dangerous, but we were definitely isolated. Okay, and it's only really in the past 40, I would say 30 years that the community has kind of opened up and gone mainstream. I mean, you're talking about something that started in the 1950s and took almost until the fall of the Berlin Wall before it even started integrating. And that's the Polacks. Okay, I don't want to even know about how long this is going to take for when you have a religion where God is telling you shit. So I think that is what we're dealing with here. If it was 1% of the population that was flooding in and they kind of spread out, I don't think you'd be seeing this. It's the sheer concentration of people that is the problem. It isn't the people themselves. You could probably get away with this with 1/100th of the people, but we are where we are. So I'm sorry to cut you off and ramble. I do that. So
not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. Religious indoctrination it has such an impact, especially on such adolescents, especially in the states in the environment where a lot of these young kids are raised in the Middle East. It promotes a bad prerogative about America. Like you go to North Korea, they talk shit about us. It's same with a lot of other countries. The biases are also put up against us, and that builds up animosity with the American lingo, I guess you can say, from other countries, especially with the youth. And as the youth develop and grow, they are, as you mentioned, hammered with this type of mindset, and I guess in their culture fulfill their duties by suicidal action with a bomb to fulfill some type of prophecy by a deity's whim of some sort.
Well, understand that if you are a complete loser, okay, and you've ruined your life, okay, you by their culture, you're drunk, you're a drug addict, you've ruined your life by their standards. You can be redeemed by strapping a bomb to yourself and going off and killing the infidel.
That is very true. That's very true.
And that is a very dangerous belief to have. Although I think, statistically speaking, by the way, you're a lot less likely to get the first wave of immigrants causing trouble. You're way more likely to get the second and third. It's the ones who technically are born here who seem to snap the most. I'm not entirely sure as to why that answer is, but I think, again, it's the isolation thing. The first wave who come here is like going, oh my God, I am so grateful to be here. Everybody here could hate me, but they're not trying to murder me. Okay, that's why I'm here, to not get murdered. That's great. But the second generation doesn't have that deep, visceral, like, yeah, crap's going on, but I'm not dying. They're going, yeah, crap's going on, and I hate all these people. Are you familiar with the Pareto effect? I might be mispronouncing it. Hello, am I talking to myself?
No, you're not.
George?
Yes, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, okay. You're familiar with the 80-20 rule? 80% of all profits come from 20% of the clients.
Actually, I'm not familiar with that as well.
Oh, well, it's all based on the Pareto effect. For some reason, the actual productive members of any group are usually very, very small. It can be as low as 1% of people make up half of your profits. Okay. So that's where the 20% of the people make 80% of the profits. Well, actually, it can get, and it's kind of logarithmic. The larger the group, the smaller the productive people. Out of 100,000 people, it's usually, out of 10,000 people, it's usually 100. Out of 1 million people, it's usually 1,000 are like that, making half of everything. So, which is one of the reasons why I encourage everybody out there, get out there and make your own YouTube channel, because the more we have, the better the quality will be overall. That's it. That's a little plug there for people to go out there and start their own channels. But the fact of the matter is that when something starts to go south, like a company, usually the smartest people are the ones who see it. Who's the smartest people? The top 1%. So when you have 1 million people seeing your country going down the shitter, usually about 1,000, the top 1,000 smart people go, hey, you know what? I can get a better job somewhere else. And they leave the country. Well, you've just lost 1,000 of your top people. You're now at 999,000 population. You're only down 1,000 people, but you just lost half of your production as a country. And we have been manipulating the Pareto effect here in America and in most of Western civilization for the past 40, 50 years. We skim off the top of all these other countries, we take their smartest, and we leave behind the dumbest. Now, while I'm not saying that IQ is 100% tied to DNA, I got a feeling that if you remove all the top people from a society over and over and over, the remaining group tends to kind of start the downward trend. I think naturally it will pop back up given time, but we have been subtly reducing the intelligence out of all of these countries for quite a while. And I think what we're seeing now is finally the end results. That's why we're getting these waves of people, because we're not keeping the smart people in the other countries to say, fix your own place. Help your own people, stay there and make things work instead of just running. And now you got a bunch of people where probably the average IQ is probably closer to 80 than 100. And, well, how do you solve your problems? Pick up a gun, shoot somebody in the face, which causes more people to flee. Now, that said, a lot of these immigrants aren't actually fleeing war. They're fleeing bad economic times. So,
oh, sure.
So now I think is why we're starting to see the reverse. It used to be second and third generation were the problem. Now we've got this huge influx of people who just, well, they're just here. They can't find jobs. They've got no prospects. They've got nothing. And, we're supposed to feel sorry for them when in reality, God, we're killing them. We're killing their country, and they're coming here and they're killing us in response. And it's not because we're oppressing them. It's because we've been adopting policies where we really should be telling them to stay home. It's not a kindness to bring them here. It is a travesty. But, you explain that to anybody, you're racist. So, we've gotten off topic, way off topic. Sorry.
Not a problem. I enjoy that spill. But what I was going to say is that the influence that America has in the world is something not a lot of people actually realize. Some people think that we're so worked up within ourselves that other countries are just doing it like, oh, they're terrorists just naturally spawn there. It's not totally accurate due to the policies enforced by us and our interactions, I guess you can say, with other countries. It has created an environment which has this population become anti-American, I guess you can say.
Well, I mean,
And
look at most of the healthcare in most of the countries. Why do they have healthcare problems? Because all the doctors leave. Where did the doctors go? They're not just vanishing. They're not just going to island nations. They're not just getting on a rowboat and going out to sea. They're going somewhere. Guess where they're going? When we're welcoming them here. Here in America, I'd be hard pressed to find a white doctor here in central New York. To be perfectly honest, I would be hard pressed. If I was a racist and said, I'm only going to a white doctor, I'd be SOL. I would be. And I don't have a problem with that because they're good doctors. Okay, don't get me wrong. These guys, these are hard-working people.
oh, absolutely.
Oh, and I'm like, yeah, no, you're definitely an asset to America. But wouldn't you prefer to be an asset to your own home country? You know, so I don't want to come right out and say this to somebody because I'm assuming that they were from somewhere else when their accent is horrible. But, you know, they might actually just, you know, studied abroad or something. Don't want to stereotype.
Absolutely. And from me, actually kind of looking from that perspective, you are able to summarize that perspective. I'm pretty sure I had fractals of that around my head, but seeing how we are this conglomerate of multiple nationalities and having such a heavy influence around the world, I guess we, like you said, we're skimming the top of a lot of these countries. And yes, it is leaving them very deprived of, I guess, essential participants in the, I guess, civilization process, which helps sustain the country as a whole. And due to that, it is causing failure in a lot of these governments. And then you got to look at it from the perspective of the immigrants who want to, the facade we have here, the better life, the American dream. I'll go here and all my dreams will come true. Though some people are able to accomplish that, many are still struggling. Maybe in the position they were in their previous country. It is definitely a tough issue, and there's not just one answer for this. There's a multiple perspectives that has to be looked at.
See, I think the problem is that America had a policy for immigration for the longest time that was open door. Anybody can come in, just show up. The thing is, though, there was no free lunch. There was no health care. There was no Social Security. There was nothing. 2/3 of all immigrants that showed up turned around and went back home. Okay, so while we may have been skimming off the top, we were skimming off the top of the people who are the most aggressive. So it wasn't like we were targeting only people who had good educations. I forget what that visa program is that only lets in educated people. That, I think, is the problem. When we had, it's okay to have open doors. Everybody, come on in. Come on in. By the way, if you can't figure out how to survive, you're going to starve in the street. There's a reason why we say in New York City, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Because if you can't make it here, you're dead. We're gonna cut you for your shoes, man. That's the attitude we used to have. And it worked for America. It did make America strong, and it was also incredibly brutal. It was rude. It was, you know, one might even say cruel, but it worked. And I think it did not do overtly too much harm to other nations, because that whole, if you can't make it here, you're going to die, made people go, you know, if I'm going to go somewhere as a successful person, maybe America's not the best place. America was the place for people who could not make it back, who were aggressive, but not successful.
Mhm.
That's the people we were targeting. The people who hadn't yet made it. When people had made it, they looked at America and go, I don't want to go there. Dear God, I got to start all over. I just made it. I don't want to go there. Nowadays, if you've made it somewhere else, you go, and now I can go to America and make it even more.
Yes.
And that is where I think we have set up this cycle to make all these other countries fail. You know, when it was America, rough and tumble, we don't care who you are, we just care that you're an aggressive SOB. That worked. It worked because we weren't skimming off the top. We were skimming off the middle over the people who were about to make it to the top. So they still had a top. You know, we're taking from the middle of people, not the top. I think that was the responsible way to do it. I don't know how you'd do it today, because in order to do it today, you'd have to completely dismantle the entire safety net of America, which honestly, I would not entirely disagree with, but I think that the transition would be so horrific at this point that it wouldn't work. You know, any sort of dismantling of government is going to be a slow and lengthy process at this point. As much as...
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
especially with the tensions that are around, and the trivial societal junctions everybody's jumping to, like feminism, the SJWs, everybody is so entwined in that, and
it's just another version of faith.
Exactly, and they refuse to view the bigger picture, and the topic we're bringing up about, in terms of, I guess in this case, immigration, and how that is affecting other countries. And I believe this is an issue that people need to look at and, pull up the statistics, do the studies, get some answers.
Oh, I think Keck brought this up earlier, which I want to mention since it's a good segue. Lacey Green came out with the second video. It's been 2 weeks. I watched it. I think she does have a point, but I don't think she quite gets it. Because she was blaming both sides, both SJWs and anti-SJWs. I think she gets the impression there's an equivalency there when there's not. Anti-SJWs, we will cut each other down in a heartbeat if we think you're fucking up. Okay? SJWs, by their nature, defend each other as long as they're saying the right thing.
Yes.
And there's a big difference there. We don't defend our side. If you can't defend yourself, you're now an anti-SJW. And I am anti-SJW. That does not mean I will not talk to an SJW. That does not mean I will not talk to a feminist. I would love to talk to anybody out there who's a feminist or anti-W. Anytime you want to jump on the show, you let me know. I will have a stream just for you. And it will be a debate. I will not argue with you. I will debate you. And the debate will be for the audience. It will not be my attempt to convince you of something. You make your points. I'll make my points. We talk. But I think she thinks there's an equivalency there where she doesn't quite understand that, yeah, we do police our own. I don't think she quite understands the distinctions either, because I think she's wrapping up like PUAs and MGTOW and a couple other people who really hate. Which then brings me back to the original topic of Manchester. There's a reason why there is. Earlier in the week, I had the privilege of talking to an individual who's not actually, I wouldn't call him a MGTOW, but he was really just a misogynist. He just hated women. And I got to hear him explain how they had it coming. How this was a good thing that the women got blown up because, it's about time. There seems to be this small percentage, I don't want to say of anti-SJWs or who they are exactly, because I'm not sure, but there's a small percentage of actual misogynists out there who basically are sitting there go, ha ha, your roost, their chickens have come home to roost, and now you have been supporting the Muslims, and now they are killing you. They have this dream that they're going to be standing up on a hill, the feminists will come crawling to them and look up and say, please save us, and they'll look down and go, no, we leave you to perish.
Has some experience with this one particular individual who shared this same perspective in terms of the utmost highest misogyny, which I found very disgusting. So this student was around about, at that time, 16 or so, Mexican. So I assume he inherited this perspective from
The
Catholicism.
machismo. The machismo.
Yeah.
I believe that's the term. Machismo.
Okay.
I'm probably mangling it, but
I'm honestly not sure. But so he, and this is my theory on this. This guy was no pussy slayer by any stretch of the imagination. You could just look at him. He was the embodiment of a stereotype of a Mexican, short, fat, and I guess in many people's eyes, not very attractive. Like I said, stereotype. I love Mexicans. I'm Mexican.
I did not know that.
I'm technically Spaniard, but people like to associate me with the Mexican demographic, so just let it be.
Yeah, it's
So,
all the same to me.
let's see. So, he had a very deep hatred for women, and I couldn't understand why he seemed to gravitate that genitals somehow serve a higher stature.
Was he religious?
He is religious.
Okay.
So, like I said, it could be rooted to Catholicism with his parents, because traditionally, in that, in that religion, the mother would stay home and cook and do all the quote unquote women things, and then the man would go out to the job, bring the money home, put food on the table, that type aspect, and with that, he somehow developed this mindset to where like he brought this. I had an argument with him because I was I was astonished. Like I was lack of words at that time when he first brought that up, because I never met and actually, you have the internet trolls, that can spout whatever they'd like, just to try to get a reaction out of you. But this guy had some genuineness with these statements, and he said like, I want you to try to say, try to bring up famous women throughout history. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, he, in his mind, he has mentally blocked out any other gender that has had superiority over, I guess, a nation or some type of civilization. And instantly, Amelia Earhart, Cleopatra, and so many others.
Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, oh, yeah. who have shaped, many, I guess, civilizations. And after I suggested these to him, he's like, "Oh, well, you got more." But then I started to think, okay, let's dig into the psychology of this guy. Let's take a gander. Let's see what we can find. And I didn't want to be so abrupt into saying, "Who's your daddy and what does he do?" as Arnold would put it. So I started to suggest women in terms of his if he was gay, did he like women, or I don't know what the deal was there. He said he was straight, but I have other thoughts on that. And do know this is a highly arrogant, narcissistic, grandiloquent, bombastic, pompous motherfucker.
I got you.
Like, I'm throwing all the synonyms out there. Like, he is the embodiment of that. Due to the, you see, in psychology, I'm not sure if you're familiar with micro expressions.
Oh no, I work with clients who are paralyzed from the neck down. Studying body language is sometimes the only way to talk to these people. So yeah, I'm familiar with what you're. 90% of what you say is actually nonverbal.
All right, very good. So, with me studying his body gestures and micro expressions, it's very you can tell a person based on that right off the bat, and just very narrow-minded. And I think that's a lot of problems for a lot of people these days. And I think maybe not just these days, it's probably been enshrined in so many people. You know, they have I guess you could say, the leaders and the followers. Typically, the followers seem to be narrow-minded. The leaders are open-minded, from my perspective.
Oh, actually, I went over this before, but I'm going to repeat it here. Hold on one sec.
Right.
Sorry about that. Anyway,
Sure.
Basically, what I think is been happening, especially with it, this is identity politics. It sounds like what you're dealing with is somebody who's into identity politics, and identity politics is racism or sexism. It's bigotry. Period. End of statement. If you're practicing identity politics, you're wrong. Period. End of statement. Doesn't matter which side you're on. Okay. Now, by the way, I will get into some clarifications on that, but you're wrong. Okay. But it seems like in identity politics, there's this core group which may or may not believe what's going on. This is, again, the Pareto effect. There's this group in the center, and they're the ones making all the money. They're the ones who are making a profit off of this. They're your priests. They're your social justice warriors who are making the talk circuit. They're your white supremacists who are like going out there and, you know, I don't know what the hell they do. Well, actually, the neo-Nazis I know are all drug dealers. But that besides the point. I'm not talking about real Nazis. I'm talking about neo-Nazis. Those guys are gang members and cultists. But that's besides the point. Yes. Then there's this crowd of people who drink the Kool-Aid. They believe the talk. They want to walk the walk, and they develop an identity based on the identity politics, because that's me. I'm going to be this guy. And in doing so, they get really, really fanatic. The problem is they're not being told the whole story. So when they follow the logic around, they have to skip over some certain parts because it gives them a headache. And you get denial. And then you get, well, you're just wrong. And
oh, absolutely.
And then, but here's the thing. Outside of that group is the actual group. Like, Black Lives Matter seems to have a very small, concentrated core of greedy people who are making money off of this. A bunch of nut jobs who are like, you know, kill the cops and they shoot people with sniper positions. I mean, but black people as a whole, at least every black person I know, and I've talked to them about it because I work with them and I said, by the way, ever heard of Black Lives Matter? Almost universally, eye rolls. It's like, dude, don't even talk about them. They're you know who? There's like 4 of them, and they're down on these guys are losers, and that's what happens in every group. But the problem is that if a group is loud enough, people start to think they're the entire group.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's 2 things I want to clarify here, as long as we're on the topic. There's supremacy and nationalism. Okay. Supremacy is we're better than you, whatever you are. And by the way, from Poland, about a third Jew, so I've got Jew relatives, a bunch of them. You know, it was important in my younger days. But there are Jew supremacists. You know, whenever they're talking about the Zion conspiracy, the problem is there are a couple of Jews out there who are really crazy about, like, never again, Jews need to rule the world. There's not a lot of them. But there's enough nut jobs out there that they do shit that can, because every once in a while you talk to these Zionist conspiracy theorists and they point out some stuff and you just have to go, well, yeah, that guy there, you're right. But no, he's just one guy. Oh, really? Yes, it's just one guy. But nationalism is not necessarily about genetic preservation. It's more about cultural preservation, which I can kind of see. Like, if there's a threat to your culture from existing. Because let's face facts here, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Genetically speaking, we don't really need to set up some sort of preservation society for humans. But cultures, there's only 200 countries. If each country has 100 cultures each, that's still only 20,000 cultures. That's not a lot of cultures. And if you're into, like, preservation of, like, you know, genetics, how about preservation of memes? Cultures are important. And we may not all agree with them, but the culture today that we're saying that's bad may be wonderful in 10, 15 years when a meteor strikes the Earth and we're plunged into a new ice age. You know, the culture that survives today may not be the culture that survives in 20 years. And so deciding that we need to blend everybody together into one big multicultural society. You know what happened the last time we tried that? It's called Africa. Back in the 1900s, the British thought they'd bring about multiculturalism by invading, various countries, destroying borders, putting various tribes who wanted to murder each other together, and that's called multiculturalism. And you know why they did it? Because a bunch of people trying to kill each other is a lot easier to rule over than a unified whole. Every attempt in the past of multiculturalism was an act of political control.
Oh, absolutely.
So when I hear people talking about multiculturalism as a good thing, I'm going, historically speaking, it was a really bad idea. Okay? It resulted in Pakistan and India. Okay? That didn't used to be the case. They split up because they couldn't stand each other that bad. And now they're a nuclear power on either side of that border, ready to nuke each other inside of 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the British multiculturalism did. There is no good example of this, friends and neighbors. Okay? Which, of course, brings us all the way back to Manchester.
And that can also be attributed to social evolution. Society's constantly changing with the influence of new ideals, or I guess it in current times, based on what I've seen and experienced, society is evolving, more like devolving, at a rapid state, and it is continuing to spiral off into what some analysts can only hope for the best, but as we see,
I like to take the viewpoint that it's more like the more biological model, like where I said there's 7 billion people on the planet, but only maybe 20,000 cultures. I probably think it's probably closer to 2,000. Okay, including subcultures. Okay, I really think there isn't a lot of cultures. America's got a lot because we're so big, but let's face facts. If you included each state as its own country, which really it is. The United States is really a united countries. Each state pretty much only has 2 or 3, cultures. So probably on a whole, we've got maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 cultures. And they naturally bled together. They naturally and bad ideas got shamed and were pushed aside, and good ideas thrived. And so cultures naturally evolve very quickly. Well, here's the problem. We are forcing cultures to merge here against their will. And so what I think is we're not having a de-evolution. It's a natural response to invasion. It's a reversion back to a more extreme stance. Your culture is being invaded. We did that to the Middle East. We invaded them. We tried to force them to become more westernized. They retreated into radicalism. If we just left them alone, I have no doubt that if we hadn't done what we did to Africa, if we hadn't done what we did to the Middle East, if we just left them alone, it would have naturally evolved along. They might have delayed behind the West, but I think they would have gotten here a lot faster than they have. And the problem is we screwed everything up. There's a bunch of people out there going, I feel so guilty. We need to fix it. No, God, that was the problem in the first place. No! Look, we really just need to say to ourselves, we screwed this up. We can't fix it. We're terribly sorry. We're just going to leave you alone. I'm sorry about this. We really just need to leave you alone, and you need to sort out your own problems. Come on, we had Star Trek, The Next Generation, Star Trek. They always had the frickin' non-interference prime directive, and we frickin' violated the crap out of it. Look what happened. We're sorry, okay? But right now, what's happening in the West? Because their countries are dissolving, they're invading us in a much more direct fashion than we did to them. But their fashion is just, millions of people streaming into our countries, bringing their cultures in here. And of course, there's going to be a reaction. And the reaction is going to be just the same. You're going to get this gone to extremism. You're going to get nut jobs who think we just need to hug them more. Like that one guy the man who got raped in Sweden and wrote a letter apologizing to his rapist because he was getting deported. That's one extreme. The other extreme is going to be when you start hearing the jackboots going, march, march, march. And it's going to happen if we don't reverse this trend. It's going to. It's inevitable. Just like ISIS is inevitable, it is inevitable that you're going to have a German version of ISIS and an American version of ISIS. And if you attack a culture enough, it will snap. Now, America, we've got a lot more I think because of the nature of America, we've got a lot more wiggle room than anybody else. But oh dear God, sorry to keep jumping on the conversation like that. But
Oh, absolutely, that is not a problem. I concur with your statements. That has definitely opened up a new perspective for me. I have not looked at it in such a broad aspect, and seeing how conflictions of cultures really ended up in the current state. Now, I understand that conflictions in other areas, but as a whole, and I guess the primitive, innate instinctiveness of defending our certain ideology comes into play. A lot of people don't realize how primitive we still are in terms of reaction.
Well, I mean, humans, people don't like to admit this. We are creatures of passion first and foremost. Then we use logic to justify it. People think it's the other way around. We must strive for logic. No, but we don't. Okay, but understand, you can have a passion for logic. Okay, and I've seen this. I've seen people get positively violent over illogic. Like, just you get enraged that this makes no logical sense. You know how emotional you're getting over your desire for somebody else to not be emotional? Do you not see the irony here? But one thing I wanted to bring up, since you mentioned it, you reminded me. You know how they have genetically modified food, frankenfood?
Yes.
And the left hates frankenfood? I think what we're making is frankencultures. We're genetically modifying cultures. And we don't have a lot of cultures to play around with. And I think that is very dangerous. We need cultural conservation. So on some level, this brings me back to my original point. I don't necessarily have a problem with the overall concept of nationalism or racial. I have a problem with racial nationalism. I don't have a problem with cultural nationalism. Because I don't think we really, because if you have 4,200 people, there's a 95% chance their genetic DNA will survive 1,000 years. As long as those 4,200 people decide we're only going to have sex with each other. And that's about the point where you don't have inbreeding get in too bad. But we don't have 4,200 cultures. We don't have that many cultures to lose. And so I can see a cultural preserve. I can see a desire. And then, when you want to experiment with little areas, that's fine. But why not just let it happen naturally? Why do we have to force this massive multiculturalism, which in the past has always been used as an act of political aggression? Oh,
absolutely.
But that's just me.
Well, many like to enforce a narrative. And everybody likes to think they're right. And when everybody says they're right, everybody else thinks that they're wrong. So it's really a battle to find who's the most right, I guess. And right, I'm using that in a very, very and not in the proper context, I'll say that. Because honestly, a lot of these argumentative
Mark,
situations that are happening.
Mark's joining us. Hey, Mark.
Well, hello, Mark.
And he brings a friend.
Oh. Trigger. Why, hello.
Howdy.
Yo.
Where are all the white women at?
Not many. Nope. Sausage fest here. Anyway.
Yes.
my fucking Discord server's starting to be overrun by the women's.
Should we be condolences or congratulating you?
I don't know. Ask Mark.
Mark?
They're always all up in that voice chat and putting in their opinions and things. Who the fuck told women they're allowed to have opinions? This isn't live, right? We're not live.
This is live. This is live.
Yes. We're going on a long and passionate.
Yeah, this is a long trip.
That's what every time random people invite me into a live stream, I usually say something like that right at the beginning. Get it out of the way. So,
we were pretty well into the live stream, I would think.
Yeah, no. To be honest, I will accept anybody's point of view. I want you to come here and express your honest opinions. And if you want to joke, and if you want to, be serious, be serious.
All right, I got a good one.
Okay.
I got a good one for you. All right, so what the fuck is it with these African tribes? And you always see these videos where they're like, or like the commercials, they're asking for you to donate money, and they're like, these people have to walk 10 miles one way just to get to a well to drink fresh water. It's like, why the fuck don't they live closer to the well? Like, how fucking stupid? Why would I give my money to people so stupid they live 10 miles in one direction away from fresh water? Like, what are they going to do with my money, honestly?
Well, do you want the honest answer?
Yeah.
Usually it's because they need to be near their work site.
Yeah. Or possibly a drought that is unavoidable. And
usually the wells are guarded by people with guns who charge you.
Yes.
So they need the money for the water?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Although, to be perfectly honest, there are certain countries in Africa I don't have a lot of sympathy for their food and water shortages, because they kicked out all their farmers because all the farmers were white and they wanted to steal their land. And then they discovered farming is really hard.
Rhodesia?
Oh, yeah, that's the one. I mean,
instead of donating money, why don't we donate, I don't know, guns so that they can kill the people that are keeping the water from them?
Let's
there we go.
Just remember the old saying. If you teach a man to build a fire, he'll keep himself... Well, no, wait. If you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the night. If you set a man on fire, you keep him warm for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
There are actually some type of... some company that is actually building in certain parts of Africa these...
Oh, you mean the dehumidifiers that take water out of the air?
Yes, humidifiers, which do produce somewhat the water, I guess, from the whatever climate.
They only work, unfortunately, in areas that aren't desert.
May I jump on that?
Oh, sure.
I've been following the... hello, everybody, by the way. Nice to meet you again.
Hey, Mark, always a pleasure when you come by.
Thank you. The feeling's mutual. And I've been following Thunderfoot on the subject because he seems to be doing a pretty reasonable analysis of it. And from what I gather, it's not gonna take quite enough water to do anything useful. It's basically not. It's not possible physically because of thermodynamics to gather enough energy to get all that water that they want to get.
Really?
Long story short, blink. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, I also saw his analysis on that, and it was the same thing with the water bottle that so-called would produce water itself.
See,
it used the same technology, quote unquote.
See, I think what fools me is that I've got a dehumidifier in my basement, and that thing can fill up in a couple of days. But the thing is how much
basement. The moisture builds on the walls and then goes into the air.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm sure that their water out of the air thing will only work where there's already water.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, that's the problem. Is you could just collect rainwater at that point. So, like you get a lot of moisture that's sucked out of the ground by the concrete, and then it creates damp walls, which is where all that moisture comes from that your dehumidifier is collecting. But when you're in the desert, if it's raining, you can just collect the rainwater, which is the only time that thing's actually going to work, is when it's about to rain.
Yes, and even if it does work, the water count is very minuscule.
Yeah.
Only ranging from maybe a quarter of a cup.
Well, that just goes to show that
a week's time.
You should have some smart people who know how to do irrigation. Anyway, before we get too much further along, there was
it's snake oil. A lot of people want to have such an invention. Water literally pulled from the air. Though, yes, it is a thing. It's not to the extent that a lot of these people, I guess startup Kickstarter companies propose, and it really shows the impulsiveness of people to just accept whatever's presented to them at face value and go ahead and I guess depending on what platform it's on, donate or at least contribute, monetary wise to it to have some half-assed, slapped-up demo, at least, of what the product is.
No, I understand what you're saying. Before we get too much further, though, because I'm seeing at the time, there's a topic that I wanted to address.
All right.
Kekistani brought it up. Do you want to tell everybody it, or shall I just go ahead?
So the other day, a reporter allegedly got assaulted by a GOP candidate. I say allegedly because I don't believe it was actually him being assaulted, but each to their own.
Yeah, the specifics are there was a special election in Montana, and the Republican candidate for the special election was going into a private interview with a Guardian reporter from another country, and something happened, and it sounded really bad on the recording. There was no video, but at one point he goes, "You body slammed me," and I don't know if you know what a body slam. Maybe it means something different to the British, but here that usually is like Ed McMahon wrestling move, Randy Savage coming out, "Oh, look at," or what was it? "Look at these 28-inch pylons," or whatever he called his arms. Maybe I'm getting my wrestlers mixed up. If there's any actual wrestler fans out there, please don't hate me too much. I don't follow it. But that said, then it got out, and the mainstream news network was just blasting it. And on NPR, I listened to them because I torture myself. And they're just showing clip after clip after clip of people on the street saying, "Oh, how could you vote for anybody who attacks a reporter?" And here's the crazy thing. I think it actually helped him get elected because he won the elections, and it looks like he did slightly better than the polls. So I don't think mainstream media quite understands.
I got a quote.
Oh, what?
From a voter.
Go ahead.
If you have somebody sticking a phone in your face, a mic in your face over and over, you don't know how to deal with the situation. You haven't really done that. You haven't dealt with that. I can see where it can make you a little angry. That was one of the people who voted for him.
Yeah. People really don't like reporters anymore. The reporters out there have taken sides, and people want neutrality. They want you to report the facts. They don't want you to comment the facts. You don't want you to package the facts, which, by the way, brings us back to the plug for George here. Do you want to plug it, or shall I? Your website? Okay. There's a website that he talked about. It's called www.bestgore.com, which is basically, it isn't just a gore fetish place, but it's where you can find honest, upfront video of the actual bloodiness that they won't show you on mainstream media. I'm not one for pushing naturally disgusting stuff, but I am about telling the truth. And let's face facts here. Manchester bombing has been incredibly sanitized for our protection. So
yeah, our protection.
Yeah, so if you want to go out there, I believe it's under Explosion Ariana Grande Concert, Manchester Arena, Fatality Confirmed. Google it. Because the video transfer thing's still screwed up and I haven't quite figured it out yet. So someday I will figure out how to do video. That said. But I wanted to bring that around there. But personally, I'm all for beating up reporters at this point. If it's okay to punch a Nazi, I don't know of anybody more Nazi-like than a reporter at this point. So just deck them. Just skin them, wear them as a coat at this point. Because I used to be so moderate. I used to be so like, no, let's not be hasty. I'm talking like Eeyore. And it's just gotten to the point where I can't justify it anymore. I can't be reasonable anymore. No, I even Fox News. I'm sorry, but you know what? Fox News, you caved. You gave in about, what's his name? I forget who he is now, but your top guy. You let him go. And now they're dropped to third place. They are third place as far as news. They used to be number one, and now they're number three. And in a number of weeks, they've dropped to number three. And guess what's happening? Their number one guy now, who used to be number two, is number one, is Sean Hannity. And oh wow, they're attacking they're attacking him. They're going after the supporters, saying, "Do you want to be the one who is known for supporting Sean Hannity because he's a what? What exactly? Sean Hannity is like a freaking Boy Scout. That guy is like, he's a really nice guy who honestly, well and truly believes all of the propaganda he's been fed as a Christian. He is like super nice guy. That guy doesn't swear. He goes, oh poo. That's probably the most he does. And yet you don't want to be you don't want to be known as the guy who's, buying airtime to get advertising with him, do you? And people are buying it. And there are people pulling. And I don't think Fox News has realized what was happening when they got rid of their last guy, that it wasn't going to stop. And once they get rid of Sean Hannity, Fox News is done. They're nobody anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
They've got that's their
yeah.
He's their number one. But I think the problem is that Fox News changed hands, and the new people who are owning it are idiots. It's like some family members who don't know what the hell they're doing. And
I wanted to echo something that Styx is usually saying, that Fox News isn't some kind of this wonderful, brilliant right-wing news source. Rather, it's just a corporate outlet that happens to have some kind of affinity towards right side, but it's just because it gives them money. Let's not overestimate the veracity of Fox News.
Oh yeah. No, totally 100%.
They seem to have still the Tucker Carlson, who seems to be somewhat reasonable when it comes to actually bringing out, idiocy of some completely crazies on the left side.
Oh, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't like Fox News. I've never liked Fox News, and when I came around to supporting Trump, I don't know if anybody actually watched Fox News, because I started watching them again, and I said, wow, I didn't realize Fox News was so anti-Trump. And then Trump gets ones, and suddenly Fox News get the religion. They are reborn. They are all new. Yes. Oh yes. No. If you go back and you honestly look at them, I mean, you've got like 93% for Hillary, 7%, not for Hillary, with CNN and MSNBC and all those other. Fox News was still about 55% anti-Trump and 45% pro-Trump in their reportings. All right. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't think 50-50 is actually necessary. I don't think we're fair and biased because we show an even amount. No, that's a false parity. Okay. You shouldn't be pro or negative at all. You should be neutral if you're a news agency. None of them are. And that's why I pray for the hastened death of all of these mainstream media outlets, because people think, oh, it'll be the end of news. No, it won't. What's going to happen is you're going to get a 2-year period of BS where there's bankruptcies and restructurings, and they're going to break down to smaller groups, and you're going to have smaller, more efficient news outlets. They're going to probably give you the same quality of service, but at like 1% of the price. And then, because they're smaller, more nimble, and new, and there's competition, they might actually try to give you news that you might want to hear that's like, just the facts. I don't know. It's a dream of mine, but we'll see.
I would like to bring up the case of one Tim Pool, who's in a way rising star of modern journalism. He's this one guy with small crew supporting him, and he's doing actual field reporting from various places, both from domestic matters in the United States and from around the world. And he branched out into doing some live streams on YouTube, and he's awesome at audience. I actually managed to kind of troll him because I threw one silly question at him, and he handled it perfectly and went on with further questions. This is in my mind perfect example of somebody who is both this good old school journalist who sticks to principles, and yet at the same time uses modern technology and lean mean business model to stay lean and mean as a journalist.
So,
I agree.
Does everybody? I'll go for it.
No. Go ahead. I just wanted to chime in and
right.
say 100% behind that.
Sure. So I was going to ask, what does everybody think of the Young Turks?
Great. That's where I get all my news.
I prefer not to. At this point, I just ignore them. Like, for a while there, I thought about going through the whole, I've got to break, because they say some truly crazy things, but part of me is going like, you know what the worst thing I could do to you? I could ignore you. If I ignore you, that's the worst thing I can do. And they're not even worth finding stuff to dispute at this point.
Well, all I can say is I'm fucking better than you, and the Armenian genocide obviously never happened. That's all I'm saying.
I agree.
Clearly.
I agree 100%. Clearly, the genocide didn't happen. Oh, God. Now, there's some reporters that could probably stand to be body slammed. Although I don't think of anybody I know who could lift the buffalo.
You could Spartan kick him in the dick.
Yeah, that's it. This is Spartan.
Negative attention is still attention, and they shouldn't be getting any.
Yeah, I think at this point they're a professional troll outlet, personally.
Yes.
Actually, I was asked recently by a friend if I would try to guess who on the crazy side of the political spectrum would possibly could be a troll LARPing as a leftist rather than actual leftist. And I mean real crazy leftists, not regular leftists. So maybe Young Turks would be a good candidate. They are completely over the top at this point and they peddle crazy theories. What do you guys think about that? Could they be LARPers?
Possibly,
Pretending?
though I highly doubt it.
I'm beginning to wonder. I don't think they started out that way, but I have been thinking, from what little I have seen about them, that maybe they have realized. I mean, look on. They brought on Talcum X. If you weren't trying to troll, you wouldn't have brought on Talcum X. I mean, that guy is the whitest black supremacist I've ever seen. But that's the case, you know, and part of me is going, you know what? Maybe the people in front of the camera are sincere, but I'm wondering if the manager, if the whoever is the actual brains is realized the truth and said, you know what? If we can't live famously, let us live in infamy. And because infamy, you know, gets clicks, gets views, gets people viewing. And for some reason, the Young Turks don't seem to be suffering from the same dearth of, you know, advertiser problems that everybody else is. But
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. I don't think they suffered at all from the recent YouTube apocalypse. What gives? Do they have all that much pull on YouTube? Are they that much of a major network, or maybe do they use some alternative financing?
They, as far as I know, they do use alternative financing. I'm sure you're familiar with Wolfpack. They're
Not quite.
okay. So Wolfpack is essentially their revolutionary platform, which is going to take over America. And in terms of what Trump's, I guess, was saying, make it great again.
Sweet.
Take the money out of politics.
Sweet. Where do I send my paycheck? Because this sounds to me like something that would lead to communism, and then, yeah, my paycheck would have to be sent somewhere, I guess.
I'm sure they have plenty of references in the descriptions of all their videos that you could go contribute towards.
No,
I think
I'm not gonna. I'm just saying that I'm afraid if they get all they wish for, then
Right,
it would be kind of Marxism or communism.
It's in your general.
There it is. We got a link.
Oh, sweet, thanks.
unfortunately, just so you know, my internet's starting to go downhill. I'm losing upload big time.
Oh, no.
And as such, we are getting a lot of white noise on the stream. I wish it wasn't the case, but I'm willing to continue to push ahead and continue the conversation. But I'm thinking of ending the stream at this point because I don't think it's going, unless the one audience member wants to keep hearing the noise. Because it's starting to get pretty bad. I don't know if it's going to correct itself. I noticed it about 5 minutes ago, but it doesn't seem to be ending. But let's continue a little bit ahead just to see. But at some point, I might just end it just because I can start to pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think it's any one person. I thought for a while there, I thought it was Mark, but nope, it's me. I'm the problem. So
Typical.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
It's what you call a white knight cuck. He's just gonna sit there and just jump on his fucking sword. We know it's because there's women.
It's
Right?
white
We know
noise
what the real
cuck.
cause is.
It's white noise.
Obviously,
It's white noise night.
obviously,
not white
only
night.
a woman is complaining about it, and now
It's
you're gonna go
actually
white
called-
knight for her.
It's called white guilt, actually.
I'm horribly guilty.
Well, she's white, so you know.
She should be guilty
White guilt
too.
towards white people.
What guilt?
White noise guilt. It's white noise guilt. Actually, that'd be an awesome
White
username. So if anybody's out there thinking of starting their own channel, White Noise Guilt has not been taken yet, and you can feel free to use that. In fact, if anybody needs any help with any ideas, give me a call. I've got a ton of scripts I've never used. Anyway, that's the little plug there. Where were we? I think we were kind of degenerating.
Press-
We can start a new
minorities?
topic if you'd like.
Okay, what new topic?
Let's see.
Okay, so I have this pretty silly article dredged up from the internet. I'm gonna drop it here, and let's for a second let it stew, and let's go with some other subject.
All right.
I'm going to be silent for a little bit while I see if I can't improve the upload.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's just the headline. I already want to punch.
Yeah, I mean, Merkel, as things stand now, isn't the most convincing person, right?
Well,
Wow.
is she a scientist? Because that would kind of be the prerequisite to convince people.
I believe that she may be more, may have actually more scientific cred than Bill Nye, the engineer
Yeah,
guy.
but-
I'm pretty sure everybody is more scientific.
At this point, unfortunately.
Than Phil Knight. I mean, he's pretty much an actor in a lab coat.
It's very shameful. Very shameful. I can go on a whole spiel about Bill Nye. Oh my goodness. What a sellout.
Yes, he is. Oh, God. I keep saying to myself, this wasn't Bill Guy, the science guy. This was Bill Nye, the guy who has to pay alimony or something, because I can't think of any other reason
Yeah.
why.
Honestly.
And curiously enough, let's contrast Bill Nye here with Alex Jones, who also is a guy who basically has to pay bills. And well, at least Alex Jones has this amusing element to it. Even if we were to disagree with anything that he said and everything that he said, I'm not saying I'm disagreeing or agreeing. I'm just saying at least he's amusing, whereas Bill Nye cringe 100%.
Yes. It's I heard the songs down that one TV show that Bill Nye was a part of, and I read the transcript for the lyrics, and those lyrics alone have caused me to grow a tumor on my back. That's how cancerous it was.
Like, isn't this supposed to be educational material?
It is, and obviously the target audience are young kids, and
Because that's the kind of content you want to push upon children.
oh sure, especially just enforcing this narrative just right off the bat. It's unfortunately many kids will grasp onto that concept.
The media
Okay, so-
wasn't bad enough, was it?
Okay, so I just dredged up from Wikipedia that apparently Angela Merkel has earned a doctorate of natural sciences in quantum chemistry. So yep, she's very much more science guy than Bill Nye.
Still not the right kind of scientist.
Oh,
Obviously.
just so everybody knows, I'm going to let it run for a while, but I've got an upload of 1.6 megs when normally I have 10. So at some point, I think the stream is just going to die.
All right.
I mean,
That's just for
we
the
need to
audience there.
stop it.
But no, we can.
Yeah, we need to-
I'm happy with the conversation as a whole. I'd like to keep it going even if the stream
Okay.
isn't working. But I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
Pretty soon, this is going to die.
Not
Anyway, Oh yeah, Bill Guy and Bill Nye. What the hell is wrong with this guy? I
Now,
mean,
I
seriously. What was he thinking when he was?
I did admire.
When he dropped that bass.
Well, the debate he had with Ken Ham. You know, I saw the real Bill Nye kind of poke out a little bit with some of his arguments, but I don't know where this came from. And here's a theory that's been going around. Some people speculate that Bill Nye is unknowingly stepping into this space. Some people convinced him that this is the right perspective to look at, and he is just simply, I guess, a vessel many ideas are hopping onto, and he's just the outlet for it. Or some others speculate that he is completely aware of his actions and is, in terms of what many are saying, as selling out. Now it's
He is.
Yeah, that would be the most charitable explanation, I guess. Because basically what he did is kinda went SJW without any good reason for it. And I don't mean like, okay, let them be. I mean, I fully embrace their ideas. To the point that basically some previous works of his has pretty much disappeared from the internet.
Yeah,
and
it's
from
like the two
Netflix.
genders.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and I wanted to put here a disclaimer in that we are not negating that there are some rare cases where people are born with various, let's say, conditions regarding their genetics, hormones or genitalia or whatever. It's true. It's some rare cases in which you can't really say it's the typical male or female. However,
Yes.
this isn't really a subject of discussion.